Hello, everybody. Our today's session is going to be based on speaking band indicators, and the session is going to be for approximately 15 minutes with an overshoot time of 2-3 minutes. If you haven't followed us on social media, I request you to follow us and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Webberz Educomp Limited. We have a beautiful blog with a lot of exercises, webberz.in/blog. On Instagram, we have a handle called as webberz.in. Same is the case with Facebook, and that's my WhatsApp number. In case you have a problem, I'll be more than happy to assist you. Let us talk about the exam pattern first. Listening, reading, writing, and speaking. Listening is for 30 minutes, reading is for 60, writing is for 60, and speaking is for 11 to 14 minutes. There are 4 parts in listening, 3 parts in reading, 2 parts in writing, and 3 parts in speaking. There are 40 questions each in listening and reading. Writing has 400 words combined together, and speaking has face-to-face interviews or video call interviews. Our focus is going to be on speaking today. What is basically a band indicator in speaking? That is what we're going to learn today. So we learn it step by step so that we understand how to increase our band score and what is the interpretation of the examiner when you do a speaking. That is the objectivity of marking. Now, what are bands? Basically, we start with here. So let me just explain you what are bands. Now, a band is a band like this, a band, and a band. So IELTS has got 9 bands. So they are differentiated in 3 bands each, 3, 3, and the last 3. So we've got this 3, 3, 3 band score, and further, they are striated into further 3, 3 bands. So the lowest one is called as A, middle one is called as B, and the upper one is called as C. Let's understand in detail what do they mean. The exam is out of 9 bands. Everything is out of 9. Listening, reading, writing, speaking, everything. Now, if you talk about speaking, all the 4 parameters, which I'm going to discuss in due course of this time, are out of 9 bands again. So, what are bands in reality? So, if a person is of C level, that means he is very proficient in speaking, and he is at a level of 7, 8, or 9. If I'm talking about a B level person, he is independent. That means he can be independent in an English-speaking country. His level is from 4, 5, and 6. And if the person is A level, which is very basic, that means he is 1, 2, or 3, which is not a good band score. And your case is not acceptable in any of the countries if you are at a basic level. So this is ideal. This is second best again. 4 is not applicable, but in some categories, 5 is applicable. For example, in a very non-speaking job, like driving or something. 6 is where the students come in, and 7, 8, and 9 is for immigration, basically. But if I talk about A level, we will not be discussing A level because that is not applicable anywhere. So let us see. B or more means the person can communicate. Let us see the parameters now of speaking. And the parameters that we have for speaking are, the first is called as fluency and coherence. I'll explain them in detail. What do they mean? The second parameter of speaking is lexical resource. I know it's a very fancy word to talk about, but this fancy word means your range of vocabulary. Grammatical range and accuracy, again, it's a huge fancy phrase, which means your grammar, the accuracy in grammar. And the last is pronunciation, which is easy to understand. But there's a word here called as coherence, which may not be very easy to understand. What is coherence? So fluency means a continuation in your speech, whereas coherence means the connectivity of 2 things together. So if I talk about coherence, it can be said like when you speak, there should be a flow of your language. For example, like I'm speaking right now and there's a flow of my language. Now let me give you an example where the flow is missing. I am speaking and the flow is missing. I've got repetition here, I've got a problem here. So which means that the flow has a problem. Now comes the next thing called as coherent, which means understandability. Now, if I have to speak to things, you ask me, where do you stay? And I stay in Delhi. Fine, it's a coherent answer. But if you ask me, where do you stay? So I say my education is master's. So that is not a very coherent answer. So the answer should be coherent, it should be understandable, and there should be connectivity. So that is called as coherence, fluency and coherence. And basically, it all amounts to listenability. If the person who's listening to you, is he able to understand you or not? That is what you call as brand descriptors. Now let us talk about fluency and coherence. So remember one thing, that everything is out of 9 bands, which means that fluency and coherence is also marked out of 9. So what is a 9 band in fluency and coherence? We'll understand that. A fluency and coherence of 9. We'll understand fluency and coherence of 8, 9, 7. That's what is important. I'm not going to consider 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Forget that. Okay. So in case you are fluent and you are coherent, you should be having these characteristics in your speech. The first characteristic is rare repetition or rare correction. Rare self-correction means what? For example, if you're speaking something and you say, I go to the market. I am going to the market. Rare. It should be rare. The second thing that should be there is minimum hesitation should be there. Like, for example, if you keep speaking, I am going to the market. There is this repetition, there is self-correction, and you can feel the hesitation. You should have minimum hesitation, you should have rare repetition, and rare self-correction. That is the meaning of a 9-band score. Coherent means it should make sense of what you're speaking. It should be coherent. Now, the topic which is given to you, you should develop it properly, appropriately, fully. That will get you a 9-band score. So what is an 8-band score then? When are you marked 8? Well, you are marked 8 if you're fluent. If you are repeating, but this occasional repetition of self-correction is there, occasional. It is not consistent, it is occasional. So slight hesitation, I'm not saying huge hesitation, a slight hesitation is okay. Develops the topics coherently and appropriately. That is the characteristic of 9, which is again there in 8. If I talk about 7 level, when do you get 7 in fluency and coherence? Well, you get 7 when you speak at length. That means the length which is given to you, you have to speak for 1 minute or you have to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. That length is complete. No noticeable effort or loss of coherence is there. That means you don't have to put an effort like your vocal cords are strained and there's a loss of coherence. You can't understand, the examiner can't understand what you're saying. That's a level of 7. Slight language-related hesitation at times or slight repetition and self-correction is there, then you get 7. And if you are even worse than this, then you get 6, you get 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Let us consider the next parameter. And the next parameter is connectives and discourse markers. So these are 2 parameters of fluency and coherence, which should be there in your speech. What are connectives? What are discourse markers? There are a lot of words like however, apart from that, connectives, but, and, furthermore, list of connectives are there. I'm going to be doing a separate video on that just to explain you what are discourse markers and what are connectives. But as for today is concerned, just remember these 2 words called as connectives and discourse markers. The next thing that is there is called as the overall crux of this: rare repetition or self-correction, rare hesitation, using cohesion and coherent, giving proper reasoning for everything, and you should be able to speak at length. That is the meaning of fluency and coherence. Now, let us talk about the next thing called as lexical resource. What is the meaning of lexical resource? It's a huge fancy word, and the fancy word actually means vocabulary. The vocab that you use is called as lexical resource. So when do you actually get a 9 band in lexical resource? Do you have to use huge bombastic words to get a 9 band score? No. My answer is relevant vocabulary. What is relevant vocabulary? Relevant vocabulary means whatever you speak, whatever you talk, if you're using words which are used to describe whatever you are talking, they should be relevant to the speech. If they're not relevant to the speech, you are not going to get marks. So let us see what is the meaning of a 9 band in lexical resource. This means that you use vocabulary on all the topics. You'll be asked a variety of topics. You should be able to give vocabulary on all of them. Next is using idiomatic language. They work like a breeze, absolutely like a breeze. Now, you should be clear that your vocabulary has idiomatic language. Otherwise, it is not going to work for a 9 band score. The next thing is 8 band score. When do you get 8 in lexical resource? Well, you get 8 when you have a wide vocabulary resource. That means it's quite wide. You've got answers for everything. You've got vocabulary for, I would not say everything, you would say almost everything. The next thing is less common vocabulary in idiomatic language. If you're using that, fine, it's all right. Paraphrasing. What is paraphrasing? That needs to be understood. If you're copying the examiner, that is not paraphrasing. You should be able to rephrase his question in your answer effectively. That is called as paraphrasing. That is called as paraphrasing. What is lexical resource 7? Now, lexical resource 7 means your vocabulary resource has to be good, appropriate, less common idiomatic vocabulary. Collocations come into picture. You have to use collocations. Collocations are 2 words which are juxtaposed, which means together, they are together. You have to start using them, collocations. And then we have paraphrasing also. Then we talk about what is the basic marking criteria, and I'm going to explain you the lexical resource in very easy, simple language to get 7 and above. You should have flexible vocabulary and use it with precision. You should use idiomatic language naturally and accurately. Your vocabulary range has to be wide. You should paraphrase effectively. This is the criteria for a 7, 8, or a 9 band in lexical resource. Now let us talk about grammatical range and accuracy and talk about what is a 9 band score in grammatical range and accuracy. Well, it is full range of structures, past, present, future. You are using all the structures. That is a 9 band score. The next thing is accurate. Using them and using them accurately are 2 different things. So you should use this range of structures, but use them accurately. What is an 8 band score in grammatical range and accuracy? Well, an 8 band score is using a wide range of structures flexibly, and majority of your sentences are error-free. Grammatical errors, they should be minimal, absolutely minimal. What is the 7 band score in grammatical range and accuracy? The 7 band score is complex structures with some flexibility. The next thing is error-free sentences, though some grammatical mistakes might persist. I'm not going to say a large number of grammatical mistakes, but some of them are there. That is a band 7 score. So let us make a summary of what is a band 7, 8, and 9 in grammatical range and accuracy. Full range of structures. PPF means past, present, future. Slight natural slips are there. That's all right. Slight natural slips happens with native speakers too. It's all right. Error-free sentences should be there. Grammatical errors should be minimum for a 7, 8, or 9 band score. You should be able to speak complex language, your sustainability of complex structures has to be there throughout your speaking. Now come to pronunciation. Now, what is a 9-band score in pronunciation? Now, a 9-band score means your pronunciation is very precise. You use a large range of pronunciation features. For example, if I'm changing the word form, the pronunciation also changes. You should be able to handle that clearly. Sustains use of features throughout your speaking. That means throughout your speaking, you should be able to sustain these features. You should be effortless to understand. The examiner doesn't have to strain his ears to understand you. No, no, no. You have to be understandable. Your pronunciation has to be understandable, effortless. What is an 8-band score in pronunciation? An 8-band score means you use a wide range of pronunciation features. And the next thing is you sustain the use of features with only occasional lapses. That means there are errors, but they're occasional. Sometimes they happen. It is not like consistently they're happening. And the next thing is easy to understand throughout. L1 is what? L1 stands for your mother tongue. So in India, we call it as MTI. The mother tongue influence has minimal effect on intelligibility. That means on your understanding, mother tongue influence should not be there. Try to speak as neutral as possible. That will give you an excellent band score. Now, the next thing is, what is a 7-band score? Now, if I talk about a 7-band score, that is a range of pronunciation features are used, can generally be understood throughout. Mispronunciation of individual words or sounds reduces clarity. At times, it is not frequent, it's occasional, very occasional. That is a 7-band score in pronunciation. Now, let's have the full idea of what is 7, what is 8, and what is 9 in pronunciation. A full range of pronunciation features is used, effortless to understand. L1 accent has minimal effect and a neutral accent. I would suggest you do not fake an accent. It's not possible to fake an accent and carry it on for a large time zone. It's not possible. So with this, we come to the end of today's masterclass for 15 minutes. See you tomorrow, exactly at